What's going on, my creative collective? Good morning. We are here another day. We're doing another lesson from A Course in Creativity. So let's dive in. So today's lesson is called Inner Child Tattoo Removal Services. What the heck does that mean? Well, today's lesson to me is really, it frees us up and it frees up a lot of space internally. So it allows us to really see things with a greater clarity as opposed to seeing them filtered through the mind, right? And what that does is it allows us to sink into the heart space and to see from that perspective, to see with spirit's eyes what's going on, and also ourselves too. So I'll dive into the lesson. So the lesson is these thoughts, and you can do this with me. You don't necessarily have to say it, but just think about this as thoughts occur to you for today, right? So these thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place. What this does is really starts to get us to understand that the mind is quite fallible. So are our thought processes and the way that we see things, right? It tends to change. When we forgive someone, we have this aha moment and think about them differently, and we think about ourselves differently in the situation. None of them have changed. All of the history of what happened, the things that have happened, all of those are fundamentally the same. Materially, they stay the same in history up here. But the only thing that's changed is our thoughts about them, which means that it really, this isn't to say that the mind is wholly fallible and unreliable. Certainly, there are ways that we need it. What I'm talking about here is the way that our thoughts about things and people and situations don't always reflect the truth of what and whom they are to us, If we look at the raw contact material, which is wonderful, I started diving into it last year, and then I found out there's a YouTuber named Aaron Abke, and I didn't know who the heck he was, and at first I was like, And then I really started to get into his stuff, and he does a really great job of outlining the law of one, so that's a possible resource for you. But it talks about this sort of fallibility of thoughts and the way that what we think can affect how we feel. And when it starts to tie into that web, we can really get into beliefs that can harm us, and beliefs that can harm us, in the ways that we push other people away. Because the law of one, and also what is in A Course in Miracles, and even creatively speaking, we understand that there's a way that we're all connected, right? So if I hate on someone else, and hate is a very strong word, but we'll go with it, because a lot of people behave in these ways. They behave very cruel, hateful, disdainful, contemptuous, these very low vibe, right? If we're going to go to the David Hawkins scale, very, very much in contempt and disdain. And it's hard to distinguish hate from those things, because we apply that word to so many different things. But if we were to get into the granular, that's what it would feel like. And what we don't realize often when we're in the midst of those feelings that are caused by thinking or thought patterns, sometimes thought forms too. There's a lot to unpack on that thought forms one. So yeah, but if we're looking at it this way, what we're actually doing is pushing other people away, and not just physically or emotionally. We're making it so that we cannot also recognize our own connection to spirit. We cannot also recognize that we are divinity in form, in human form. That Savior is not outside of you. That Savior is nowhere. That Savior is right in here. It's you coming home to you, and your perspective, seeing that, understanding that what you do to yourself, you do to others. What you do to others, you do to yourself. I'm not talking about the golden rule here. I'm talking about the fundamental aspects of any kind of I want to say, I want to say spiritual way, but that can get pretty nebulous. But realistically, if we're talking about love, and if we're preaching love in any kind of way, these practices really, they are deleterious, not just to those aspects of our lives, but also to ourselves. And I think when we start to fundamentally see that, we get very curious about the thoughts that we think, right? And A Course in Miracles, I love this particular set of lessons because it really lays the foundation, right? This is the first of many, but this lesson in particular, lesson 4, is the first real dive into the way that we understand that meaning is made. The meaningful things come from within you. They come from within you because you ascribe that and you think that of them, right? It's not from outside of you. Meaningful things are given meaning from somewhere, right? So we understand that. And then it also means that we're cast, storms that come, we're sort of cast on seas that are not so stormy anymore because we can pull back and we see, well, I've given all of these things meaning. And that's like the next couple of lessons, which I'm really excited for. But for now, these thoughts do not mean anything. The other thing to consider too is your mind is a deeply personal experience. It's so personalized. It's like the ultimate, it's just user experience design, right? So it has the, confirmation bias. There's cognitive dissonance. Another great book, if you're looking to read it, is A Course in Mastering Alchemy. Excellent book. It expands on A Course in Miracles and raw contact material, also a channeled text, conversations with God. If this is, I'm not going to edit it out. I don't care, but I'm going to grab this here. This is my super old ass copy. It's falling apart now, but there's one quote in here. I don't know where it is, but this is the sort of compendium edition if you so desire to read another text that is channeled. It's a little bit tattered, but this is the 3-in-1. In this book, one of the things that God says to Neil is that, we don't know what a thing is for. We don't know what something is for. In the lifespan of that event or person, we don't know what it's for and how that person is going to integrate the lessons of that. We don't know how that is going to shape up. So it's really hard for us to say, well, that's a bad thing. That's a bad thing, right? So we place these value judgments on it because we assume that we know the specific and long-term enduring meaning of things. There are certain ways that we can collectively agree that there are, things that are lesser. I'm not talking about abdicating all of that for any critics watching who are like, I'm going to look for one thing that's wrong with this and this. That's fine. This is talking about the specific thoughts that we think and how they can get in the way of us truly understanding who we are and being connected to others in a way that frees us. Creatively speaking, this is the beginning of the creative process. This is where we get into that space of, I don't know what something is for. I just hit the table with my elbow. Sorry if that was in your ears. I don't know what this is for. I don't know what it's for. Then what can it become? When you don't know what it's for, you open up the doors to what it can become. And that, my friends, that is transformation. That's transformative. That's the creative process where we take away our understanding of things and say, well, I have no idea. Then you go within and you find out what it means to you. And then you can place it within a context that is not just empowering. It's not doing the process for the sake of that empowering feeling. It's doing the process to connect with these parts of yourself that are then able to see through the eyes of spirit, because that is how you connect to love. That is how you create from open spaces within you. It's like feeling the warmth of a sunset, but on the inside, right? So the goal here today is to think your thoughts. So find yourself even doing this, thoughts that you were thinking right before this exercise. Don't label them. Resist the urge to rush to label them, good or bad. They're just thoughts. They're just thoughts. This is the premise of meditation, right? They're just thoughts. Dial it back, pull back, right? This is here, the goal here. So I wrote this. The goal here is to separate your mind from what has no meaning, to separate what's going on up here from what has no meaning, and then looking at what you give meaning to through your thought processes, right? And thoughts that we keep thinking make up beliefs. So this process is exceptionally powerful if you've been really hard on yourself, or, and I think about this in terms of the inner child tattoo removal services. Oh, I need to get a haircut. Whatever. That's fine. Inner child tattoo removal services, it looks at this way that we can be, what are the thoughts that we keep thinking about ourselves relative to our perfection and the demands that we've made of ourselves, right? How perfect we've assumed we needed to be for something or demanded ourselves to be which is on the one hand completely unrealistic, and on the second hand, or we hold on to things that we've done wrong. We hold on to things that we've done wrong because it caused a reaction in other people, and we make ourselves guilty for a lifetime where we're paying some restitution that was never ours to pay. Right? So we can get into these places with our beliefs where we really get not just spun around, but it's like we turn the knife in at ourselves. Someone can hurt us and wound us in that way with their words, with their actions, but then we can hold on to that and twist it. We can then twist it on ourselves because we believe something and we've made meaning from those thoughts. So this is all part of an iterative process. So there is more to come. There is more to come. But I want to remind you today that you are not the thoughts that you think about yourself. That is ego. That is what ego identity is. You are not the thoughts that you think about yourself. You are not. Nor are you the things that you think about your art. Nor are you the things that you think about your work, about your friends, about your family. No, none of them. That's not you. That's not you. And this whole process is designed to cut through illusory thinking, illusion-based thinking, and the great illusion of thought, right? Because if we think something of a situation over and over and over again, we know that becomes a belief. And then from belief spring expectation. It springs, what we hope to happen. It springs all of these different dreams. And we realize that this is really the process of waking up in the dream, right? So begin today. These thoughts do not mean anything. These thoughts do not mean anything. Now, when we're talking about tattoo removal, the thoughts that I found most powerful in regard to not meaning anything were those that I took in as a kid, right? Growing up in a bit of a tumultuous home. I mean, no one would look back and be like, that was really peaceful. No, it wasn't. So you look at those things, those messages that you took on when you were younger, and that becomes the voice of your inner child. Usually it can, for a lot of folks, they find that it's an inner critic until they start to befriend these parts of themselves and meet them in that way. So think about the things, the thoughts that you think when you're being most difficult or hard on yourself, right? Where you're holding yourself to a standard, an impossible standard, and then pull back, and look at that thought and say, this thought doesn't actually mean anything. I've given it all the meaning it has. This thought doesn't mean anything. Just start there. We don't have to fix every thought. We don't have to do everything with every thought today. That's why A Course in Miracles is over a year. The workbook is a year. It is a year, and it is an iterative process. So stick with this. Stick with this. Just observe your thoughts and don't make a day-long exercise of this. It will have a negative effect if you do that, because then you're going to get into this place of thinking about the thoughts. What we want to do here is observe, right? We're getting into almost a pseudo meditative state where we're just watching thoughts. We're just observing for a moment or two, and then tomorrow we'll dive into more. But for today, inner child tattoo removal services. Who the heck wouldn't want that, right? So these thoughts do not mean anything. I hope that you have a wonderful day ahead, my friends. As you can tell, the sun is shining here. I'm very excited to get out and play. So take care and have a fantastic, I don't even know what day it is today. Fantastic Thursday. Oh my gosh. Take care, my friends.